Hi, Par Level participants. Coach Tammy Palmer, Program Director of the First Tee of the Golden Owls. And again, with me, I have Coach Mason here. And we're talking about core lesson number 15, which is finding your personal par. So Mason, we talk about shooting par all the time on the golf course, right? And so what does par mean? And how do we find our own personal par?
Mm-hmm. For most courses, what you'll see, a par for an 18-hole course is usually 72. So that's if you make a par on every single hole, the par 3s, the par 4s, the par 5s, and then at the end, you would add that up and be 72, which would be a great score and something that I think we should all strive to get to eventually. But for a lot of us, that may not be realistic. So being able to develop a personal par and saying, instead of 72 as being the par on the scorecard, I'm going to set my personal par to 90 or 80 or 85, whatever that may be. So that on each hole, I have an individual separate par for that hole. So say it's a par 5, but for me, usually I'm averaging a double bogey on that hole. So that par would really be a 7 instead of a 5. So if I match that, then I'm really at my par. And it comes down to not comparing yourself to other people, because there are players, and you'll see players out there that can shoot par and even better than par. And it's being able to stick to your path and know that you may get there eventually.
So you were talking about, golf course generally being a par 72, mm-hmm. right? So, that would mean like if you go out on each hole and you shoot whatever the par is for that hole. So if it's a par 5, you get the ball in the hole in 5 shots, then you've made par on that hole, right? So most of us really can't get there, right? So the expectation is set very high, and so sometimes we can get discouraged mm-hmm. because we're not playing like what other people are playing, right? So for some of our participants out there who aren't there yet, like they aren't able to shoot par, and that's okay. That's just where you are right now. What are some things that they can do mm-hmm. to help improve their personal par or improve their game of where they are right now?
Yeah, I think a great way to kind of measure your success or where you're at the moment is to go play and keep score and not worry about what the scorecard par says or what the par for the 9 or the 18 hole. So go out and just count as many strokes, and at the end, see where you're at and try to keep that as a personal milestone. So the next time you go out and the next time you play, you have that number in your head. Say I was playing 9 holes and I shot a 50. Then the next time I go out, I have that 50 in my head. The par on the scorecard may not be a 50, but that's what I shot. So I'm comparing it to that rather than comparing it to the scorecard or what somebody else shot. So when I go play, I'm trying to beat that 50, and if I'm close to that or a little bit under that, then I've considered that a successful day.
So if you are out and you're playing golf with some of your friends, mm-hmm. And they tend to be a little competitive, right? And your game is not quite there, are you comparing your score with theirs, or what? If not, what are you thinking about?
I think it comes down to, for me, I try to compare it to my scores in the past. So say I'm playing a certain course and I know I've shot this before, I kind of have that average or what I'm kind of expecting to shoot. I'm trying to beat that. And there may be some people I'm playing with that are a little bit ahead of me, a little bit better, but keeping on my path and trying to get better at my personal score and my personal par. Eventually I can continually lower that personal par so that I can compete with them.
So I have seen other competitive golfers, and when they're out there practicing on their own, what are some ways that you have seen, competitive golfers like college level golfers or high school golfers, mm-hmm. maybe they're out there practicing and they're reviewing their score. What are some things you've seen, how they might dissect mm-hmm. where their shots are coming from?
Yeah, I think that's great that you brought that up. It's more than just the total number that you get on the hole. It's being able to kind of break that number down and seeing where most of your strokes were. So I've seen before where you keep track of how many fairways you've hit off the tee. So that's an important statistic to keep track of and saying, hey, am I hitting the ball well? Am I hitting the ball well with my driver? And putting myself in the fairway so that I can have a clear shot at the green. And then the next one is hitting the green in regulation. So that means hitting the green, and then my next shot I have a birdie putt. So being able to have more birdie putts during the round is going to increase your chance of shooting a lower score. And then the next part that you can kind of break down is total number of putts. So say I had a really great day, but I was 3-putting every single hole, then I know, hey, I was hitting the green from the fairway pretty regularly, but I wasn't putting too well. So being able to break that down kind of helps with the next time you go out to practice and say, I need to work on putting today, or I need to work on driving or hitting my irons.
Wonderful. That's a great answer. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, this is core lesson number 15, finding your personal par. We'll see you guys next week.